Good evening. We're trying to work through some technical difficulties right now. We have word that it'll probably be about 5 after, maybe a little longer before it's resolved. And if it's not, we're going to proceed without the technical things, or some of the technical things. So bear with us and we'll get going hopefully in 5 minutes.
Good, how about you? How's everything back? Oh, it is. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
easily. It could have happened with,
Did you read the minutes? Did you
guy
read
too,
the minutes?
or this girl.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for your patience. Welcome to the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting for Monday, August 22nd, 2022. I'm going to start off by reading the meeting procedure. All persons in attendance at the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meetings are expected to comply with the following meeting procedure. Thank you in advance for helping make this a manageable meeting. Copies of the agenda and item materials are available for the public viewing on the table located at the back of the meeting room. These materials are not to leave the table, so others in attendance may also view them. Please turn phones to vibrate off during the meeting and conduct any sidebar conversations outside the meeting room. Interruption or other interference with the orderly conduct of the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will not be allowed. Defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order. Disruptive persons shall be removed from the meeting. The chair may terminate a speaker's privilege of address if, after being called to order, the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks. Written material concerning agenda items must be submitted to the Environmental Services Department by 3:30 p.m. on the Wednesday immediately prior to the meeting date. Written materials will not be accepted after this deadline or at the meeting because the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will not have sufficient time to review them prior to the meeting. Such material must state the agenda item for which it is being submitted and the name and address of the submitting party. Planning Commission business is conducted first, followed by Board of Adjustment business. The chair will call the meeting to order and explain the meeting procedure. The chair will read each agenda item into the record and ask the applicant to come forward to the presenter's table, state his or her or their names and addresses for the record, and explain his, her, or their request. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will then discuss the agenda item with the applicant. The chair will then ask for public comment on the agenda item. To facilitate an orderly, efficient meeting, there is a 3-minute speaking time per speaker per agenda item unless the chair allows a speaker additional time. The chair may terminate the speaker's privilege of address if, after being called to order, the speaker persists in improper conduct or remarks. When the chair recognizes a speaker, she may approach the audience podium and microphone, state his or her full name and address for the record, and write such on the speaker's log, and then share his or her comments. The audience podium microphone must be used by the recognized speaker because the meeting is recorded. A member of the public may not donate his or her speaking time to another speaker. A speaker should state his or her comments and address the issue, not the applicants. All comments are directed towards the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment. Please do not repeat comments already made by previous speakers. The chair reserves the right to ask a group with similar comments to appoint a spokesperson. If written comments have been submitted to the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment, please do not read them aloud during the meeting as they are already part of the record and copies thereof have been given to the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment. After everyone wanting to speak on an agenda item has done so, the chair will close public comment period excuse me, on the agenda item. No further public comment will be taken after this point. The chair will give the applicant an opportunity to address issues raised during public comment. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will then continue its discussion on the agenda item and the chair will entertain a motion on it. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment may make a motion to pass, deny, or table the item. Once the motion is made and seconded, the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will develop findings of fact for conditional use permit and variance applications, and then vote on the motion. Once a vote is taken on an agenda item, the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment will move on to the next agenda item. Meetings commence at 6 p.m. and continue until all agenda items have been heard or until 10 p.m. No new agenda items shall be considered after 9:45 p.m. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment may at its discretion continue an item that is on the floor at 10 p.m. Any remaining agenda items shall be continued to another date, time, preferably the immediately following Tuesday at 6 p.m. And no further public notice will be provided for such a meeting continuation. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment, through the chair, may modify these procedures prior to the meeting or an agenda item. Okay, we're going to start off with the Planning Commission and the approval of minutes of the July 25th, 2022 meeting minutes. I have a motion on any comments on the minutes?
This is Veronica. I make a motion to approve the July 25th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
Second, this is Ken, second.
Okay, we have a motion by Veronica, second by Ken, to approve the minutes from the July 25th, 2022 meeting. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
This is Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
This is Veronica. I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye. The minutes pass. There's no old business, so we'll move on to new business. Final plat application of Farris Acres by Son and Linda Tran, part of the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter, section 14, Township 145, range 32, Farden Township, parcel 07.14.00500. Applicants are requesting to plat 34 plus or minus acres into 7 lots. Please state your name and addresses for the record and then explain to the board what you're asking.
Linda Tran, 30929 Waterwheel Road, Cass Lake, Minnesota.
Matt Murray, Murray Surveying, 304 3rd Street, Bemidji. Tonight, we're here looking for final approval of the plat of Farris Acres. The proposed final plat conforms exactly with the layout of the preliminary plat, and all the remaining application requirements have been met. So again, we're seeking final plat approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
No. Staff report indicated everything is in order and consistent with the ordinance.
Okay, at this time, I'll open for public comment. Hearing none, we'll close public comment. Is anyone ready to make a motion?
This is Veronica. I'll make a motion that we recommend approval to the Hubbard County Board of Commissions for the final plat application.
This is Mark, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Veronica, a second by Mark to recommend to the county board to approve the request. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
This is Veronica. I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye. Carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now move on to the Board of Adjustment and the approval of minutes of the July 25th, 2022 meeting. Any questions or comments?
This is Ken. I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes from the July 25th, 2022 Board of Adjustment meeting.
This is Mark, I'll second that.
We have a motion by Ken and a second by Mark to approve the July 25th, 2022 meeting minutes of the Board of Adjustment. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
This is Veronica. I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye. The minutes are approved. Old business. We have amended variance application 5-V-22 by Penny Westfall, part of Government Lot 4, Section 24, Township 141, Range 34, Lake Emmett Township on Gilmore Lake, a recreational development lake. Parcel 16.24.02000. Applicant is requesting a variance from Part 1, Section 702 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance for a proposed addition to a non-conforming dwelling in the shore impact zone. And that was approved on May 23rd, 2022, and amended Part 2, Section 502.2 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance for a proposed platform and accessory structure to be located within the 100-foot ordinary high water mark structure setback, and Part 3, Section 703 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance for a proposed lakeside platform that will exceed the maximum 15% of the structure. Ordinary high water setback, waterward dimension, and be located within the required 30-foot minimum ordinary high water setback. So please state your name and address for the record, and then explain to the board what you're asking.
Thank you. Penny Westfall, official name Edith Westfall, 425 4th Avenue, Van Meter, Iowa. The lake properties at 20833 Harmony, Park Rapids. And requesting on the south side of the cabin is replacement of the entryway that goes into the cabin on the south side. When the work first began, Don had removed what cement was there that was placed in the mid-50s when that part of the cabin was built. It was a cement entryway with a sidewalk to the lake. And so he had removed that, and as you were making the visit for the other variance, it was noted that it shouldn't have been removed. And so we just stopped everything at that point. I asked Don what was the measurements before, because I don't know, and I don't have any pictures of that. We wanted to remove the cement because it was buckling, particularly the sidewalk was buckling, and the others was cracking, and there was growth, and it was not safe. And of course, we're not asking for anything down to the lake, just the entryway. And that's the first part. The second part is adjusted the dimensions of the platform for a potential gazebo, which is, again, not totally decided whether we want to put that there or not. So those are the two requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board?
Yeah, this is Ken. I don't know, Eric, if you can put it, oh yeah, there we are. There is one picture that was in our packet, and what I'm looking for is to try and figure out what the area was of the platform that was removed. And there is a drawing, you can kind of look, it looks like it's about half the width, which would be about 9 feet. And I think we thought that was about it when we were there. There was, is that the one? That may be the one. Well, let me look here. No, there's another, there is one more picture. Yeah, here. Like this, like, shows that, you can kind of see the platform there. Kind of hard.
Probably the second one, Ken, but I'm kind of limited in my ability to
Look at that, I
turn
figured
things around.
from there to there is about half the 18.
I think what we thought was 4 by 8,
Well.
4 by 8, 32 square feet.
Yeah, 36, not times 4, because it was 4, yeah, okay.
Other questions or comments from the board? Yes, my observations from trying to determine based on what limited pictures we have and then the actual site itself, it looked like what was there is considerably smaller than what you're proposing. And I think from my standpoint, and the board has to chime in on what they're thinking, but to me, I think being generous would be a 9 by 4 or 36 square feet or somewhere thereabouts, and would be appropriate for that. But that's just based on what limited knowledge I have and what I think it would be fair.
Mike, can I comment? I think she had asked for like 6 feet. I think the 36 square feet is probably the key number. So if she wanted to make it 6 feet out, then maybe 6 feet wide, which would be the 36 square feet. Because, you know, it is closer than the 30 feet, and it doesn't meet the 15% width. But 6 feet gives you a little bit more room to place a chair or something if you want, but I would be of the mind to want to restrict it to 36 square feet, and it could go as close, it could go as far as 6 feet lakeward from the building. That's sort of my feelings.
Okay?
Mike, this is Mark. Ken, what size, 6 feet out, you're feeling like, and how wide?
It would be 36 square feet. That's what I think she had approximately.
Okay.
She'd like a little bit more rooms instead of 4 feet that was maybe there, 6. I'd be okay with that. But then it could only be 6 feet wide, so it sticks with the 30s. I think 6 times 6 is 36.
Okay.
My third grade
So-
teacher might be mad at me if it isn't.
So if I could, then I'd like to ask the applicant, I wasn't with the group the day they did the lot views. What, the other platform, what is your intention with that? How are you, is that just gonna be poured concrete there, or?
Yes. And then a gazebo placed on top of the platform.
And is that in the request now?
Yeah, there's two parts. One is the,
The gazebo is?
It's in
Yeah,
two parts.
yeah.
the ordinary
Okay,
part.
okay, I didn't know about
That's
the
the other
gazebo. I knew the
platform, yeah.
platform,
Yeah,
but I
okay.
didn't know how that, okay, so, and that's going to be 10 by 12? Is that correct, that gazebo?
Yeah, let's finish up this.
yeah, why don't we
Well, I'm-
take these?
Okay,
We'll finish up. This is actually, as I understand it, part 3, which is the step in front of the house itself or the cabin. And let's
Okay.
do that one
Okay.
first, and then we can incorporate into one motion, but
Okay.
then discuss the gazebo part. Any other questions or concerns?
no,
No, this is Veronica speaking. I had similar ideas as well, because having a platform to exit the lakeside cabin is reasonable. Placing a condition that the platform cannot exceed 36 square feet is also, to me, a reasonable request, being that they are in the shore impact zone and only 18 feet from the ordinary high water mark setback. So I agree with that as well.
Okay,
Yeah, this is Timothy. I agree. I think 36 square feet is generous from what was there.
and then I think just as part of that is that it cannot be more than 6 feet than 6 feet is the maximum it can go out from the building towards the lake.
Yeah, lakeward. Pretty much that drawing, but 6 feet instead of 18 feet.
6 by 6.
Okay.
6 by 6.
And then part 2 is the gazebo request. Any questions or comments from the board on the gazebo request?
Do you want to back up and do findings of fact and make a motion for the first one and then go forward?
If
or
it's
do you-
easier to do it that way, let's do it that way then. I would suggest the lakeside platform.
I'm
If someone
prepared.
wants to make a motion and then do the findings of fact, we can do it that way. So first I need to open for public comment. Hearing none, I'll close public comment. Are you ready to make a motion?
Yep, this is Veronica. I'll make a motion for part 3 of the platform structure on the lakeside. I make a motion that we approve a 6 by 6 platform lakeward of the structure. And I will provide findings of facts. For number 1, is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls? Yes, having a platform to exit the lakeside cabin is reasonable. Placing a condition that the platform cannot exceed 36 square feet due to the structure being located in the shore impact zone and 18 feet from the ordinary high watermark setback is in harmony with the shoreline management ordinance. Number 2, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? Yes, having a lakeside platform to exit the property is a reasonable request and use of the property, placing that condition again with the 36 square feet due to location of the platform. And I will adopt the staff's findings of facts for 3, 4, and 5.
This is Timothy. I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Veronica, a second by Timothy to approve a 6-by-6-foot platform lakeward of the structure, and we have identified findings of fact. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
This is Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
And this is Mike, I vote aye. Part 3, motion on Part 3 carries. We'll now start a discussion on Part 2. Anyone want to start off on the gazebo?
Do you have, this is Veronica speaking, do you have any idea when your lot was created?
Ooh, back in the 1800s.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
So prior to the shoreline management ordinance?
yes,
Okay, and how long have you owned the property?
since 1977.
77, okay.
Which sometimes is hard to believe how fast time goes.
Other questions or comments from the board?
Just kind of a note, I guess, what was marked out by the owner did not meet the 10-foot side lot setback, and I think that would be a mandatory thing that we'd have to ensure, that we at least meet the side lot requirement. Second point, it's clear that you could not build the structure probably anywhere on the lot without it either encroaching on the easement to the road or encroach on the 100-foot setback. So no matter where it goes, it's going to encroach on one or both of those, which makes it problematic, which, is a key element in the practical difficulty.
And this is Veronica speaking. So during our lot views, well, we had noticed, as you can see on the drawing on the board or in front of you here, either way, you had indicated that the structure was going to be 78 feet from the ordinary high water mark, but when environmental services went out, it's actually the markings that you had out there were right at 70 and 71. So I just wanted to make sure you understood what Ken was talking about, where there's some differences on the measurements and such. So in order for it to be at 78, where you had planned it or mentioned that it was going to be, it's going to be pretty much have to be up against the garage.
The garage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Or turned the other way.
Possibly. It wouldn't be able to be turned the other way
Okay.
because then it's gonna be encroaching in the side, in the setback. Unless it's not lined up the way you were wanting to line it up, it could be if you moved it over. So either way, you're going to have to move it so that it meets that side, that 10-foot side setback.
Other questions or comments?
Not yet.
I will open this item also for public comment. Hearing none, close public comment. When I looked at it, to me we need, I'm in agreement with Ken that to meet that 10-foot side lot measurement. And within that, then I think it can be aligned pretty closely with that garage, so the visibility from the lake will be minimal impact because you're really going to have just a roof line into a roof line with no more sidewalls or anything, just some posts. So I think it would have minimal view shed impacts, and as mentioned, is one way or another, it's the setbacks for either the road or the ordinary high water mark are problematic. So we have to, if we're going to go forward to approve it, pick which one we're going to try to do.
And this is Veronica. I'm open to the proposed location as well because, during our lot views, it was full leaf-on conditions. And the proposed location of the gazebo is well-screened, as you'd mentioned, from the neighboring properties and the road. And visibility from the lake also, because of the topography of the lake, none of the runoff is gonna go towards the lake, it's all gonna be trapped, so, you know, I'm open to the placement there. What we need to determine is if we're gonna do it at the 78-foot setback, would be up against the garage. Or the current location she has is 70 and 71, so I'm open to pushing it to the 78, if the applicant is open to butting it up as close to the garage as you could.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's probably in my mind, the best solution.
This is Veronica, I agree. If we moved it to the side, and even though it'd be further away from the OHW, the ordinary high water mark, then we would be, the second variance request would be the road right-of-way. So either way, any type of accessory structure is going to require a variance.
Mike, just clarify, catch me up, that is achievable, the 78-foot?
No.
Not quite. If it's butted up against the house, possibly, according to the, there's 8-foot
Well, it'd be
setback
close.
between the house and the gazebo and the garage. The birch tree would be moved, and then it could go up against the garage.
This is Ken. I don't think it's reasonable. I think the location's the best location on the lot, and the gazebo request is very reasonable if you think about it. There is no screened-in porch, there's no deck, there's none of those attributes that most lots have, so the request for it is reasonable. I think the other thing, if you look at the topography, there's a big berm, so whatever we do should not have any influence or impact to the lake in terms of runoff. And so I'd be okay with it specifying or keeping it to 70 feet that was measured. I don't think you want to put it right up next against the garage. I wouldn't want it.
And then over then, just to meet the setback, the side lot line setback?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 70-foot and the 10-foot side lot setback would be the two constraints that I would put on it. I mean, if you had to do any maintenance on it or whatever, you want to get around between the garage and it. And whether it's 78 feet or 70, the impact to the lake is the same, which I would say is zero and reasonable.
Are
So
you ready to make a motion?
I am if he's not.
it sounds like I'm.
Veronica?
Do you understand the condition that we're posing then? So everybody is open to leaving it at the proper 70-foot setback, but making sure you're over and off that at least 10 feet from the side lot line.
From the side lot line, yes.
Because right now you're only like at 8 feet 6 inches. So you've still got to shift it over a bit, but the placement is an ideal place for it.
Veronica, before you do, the technicality, typically, I think that 10 feet or dimension would include the eaves structure. I don't know whether we want to require that in this case too, because there's like a clump, 3 big clump birches sitting there that I think if we specified that the platform had to be the 10 feet, she'd probably be able to build it without taking those trees down. Follow what I'm saying? So we might want to, or we just want to say, no, we got to meet,
10 feet
I'm
setback from
giving
the
you an option
platform.
as to what you're going to recommend, but keeping in mind when the ordinance 10 feet includes the eaves on the building,
Right.
so.
Okay, this is Veronica. I will make a motion to approve Part 2 of the variance application as presented with the condition that the 10 by 12 platform must be 10 feet from the side lot line and 70 feet as presented from the ordinary high water mark. That gives you a little leeway on that eave. Did I cover everything for there, Ken? I think so. Okay.
Yeah, well, at least 70 feet and at least 10. I mean, she could move it back a little
Sure.
bit or to the right a little bit, yeah, okay.
And I have findings of facts. Number 1, is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls? Yes, the applicant reduced the size of the platform and gazebo as requested to meet the side lot line setback. The proposed location of the gazebo is well screened from the neighboring properties and the road. Visibility of the proposed construction will be minimal due to the elevations or topography between the proposed location and the lake. Although moving the structure to the side of the garage would place it further from the ordinary high water mark, it would then require an additional variance to meet the road right-of-way setback, as that location has overlapping setbacks. Placing a condition that the proposed structure and platform must be 10 foot from the side lot line and 70 feet from, at least 70 feet from the ordinary high water mark, both of which have been marked by ASO staff, is in harmony with the ordinance's intent. Number 2, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? Yes, having a covered area to view the lake is a reasonable request. The applicant reduced the size of the platform and the gazebo to meet the side lot line setback compliance and move the structure further from the ordinary high water mark. Number 3, is the need for a variance due to the circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior property owners? Yes, the lot is smaller, substandard in size, and was created before the shoreline management ordinance. A variance of some sort will be needed for any accessory structure to be placed on the lot, and this location, for the most part, is inconspicuous. And I will adopt the staff's findings for 4 and 5.
This is Mike, I'll second that. So we have a motion by Veronica, second by Mike, to approve Part 2 with the conditions that the 10 by 12 foot platform be 10 feet from the side lot line and at least 70 feet from the ordinary high water mark. We've approved findings of fact. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote.
Just a question.
1 second.
Since there was disparity in where she marked, thinking she was meeting the 10 feet and stuff, should we try to protect her by putting a condition on that environmental services needs to approve the foundation location when they put the, things in to make sure that she's meeting the 10-foot side back? Do you think that's reasonable? I don't want her to build it and then it's 9 feet, and then that's an issue. Are you okay with that, Eric?
Eric speaking, generally, we don't get involved in measuring side lot setbacks because we can't verify that that is the lot line. It was marked in this case, and that's the point from which we measured, but I would rather leave that up to the landowner to make sure that they comply with that.
And I would rely upon the construction, the person who's going to pour it for us. I won't be, I did it this time because Don's not been around, but
Well, is it clear where the lot line is? That's
there,
never-
we did have it surveyed, and it does have the spikes in the
Okay.
ground, and we
Well,
did keep the
If that's
poles
clearly
up.
marked, then the person building it should be able to do that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Timothy, how do you vote?
Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye, motion carries, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you, and thank you. Have a good rest of the summer. It's gone now.
Next on the agenda, we have the variance application 14-V-22 by John Holler, part of the east half of the southeast quarter, section 30, Township 140, range 34, Henrietta Township, parcel 13.30.01540. Applicant is requesting a variance from Part 1, Section 4, Subdivision A1B1 of the subdivision ordinance to create a tract that does not comply with the 300-foot minimum lot width requirement, and Part 2, Section 4, Subdivision A1B3 of the subdivision ordinance to create a tract that does not comply with the 33-foot minimum easement requirement. Please state your name and address for the record and then explain what you're asking.
I'm John Holler. I live at 17361 169th Avenue in Park Rapids. So what I'm looking at doing is splitting my 25 acres into 2 separate parcels, one would be about 15 acres, one being about 10. I did have Compass Consulting out there to survey it all and kind of draw up exactly what I'm looking for. The one variance that I was requesting is, I have a really weird property, just the way it was all laid out, and I really don't know how it got passed to begin with. But my current driveway is, I believe, 70 feet or something like that, that goes back to my house. And if I were to ever separate that property, I couldn't actually, I don't know how I could. That 70 feet does not meet the requirements of the 300-foot, I believe it's frontage, that's needed. And then the other variance requested was, that my current easement, which is, I think, 28 feet, be, acceptable, I guess, instead of the 33 or 32 that is required. Ultimately, I'm looking at selling the south parcel, and the person that's purchasing that would eventually build a house there and not need to split it anymore, but he would need to get into his property too. So not really looking to change anything, just looking to have what's there be acceptable, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board?
This is Veronica speaking. I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
The person that you're probably or possibly selling to, are they going to utilize the 169th Avenue driveway and share with you to get to theirs, or are they
They're
gonna
gonna
take the
use
other
the
side?
south easement,
The
yep.
south.
Yep,
So you're not gonna give them any access to get to their lot on yours?
Not off mine,
Okay.
correct.
This time I'll open for public comment. Hearing none, we'll close public comment. Other questions or comments, or is someone ready to make a motion?
I will, okay. This is Ken. I'll make a motion that we approve variance application 14V22 and accept the findings of fact of the staff.
This is Mark, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Ken, a second by Mark to approve and accept the staff's findings of fact. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
I vote aye. This is Ken.
Mark, how do you vote?
This is Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have the variance application 17-V-22 by Mike and Melinda Spry, lots 13, 14, and 15, Bannisters, 5th Crow Wing Addition, Section 30, Township 140, Range 33, Nevis Township on 5th Crow Wing, a recreational development lake. Parcel 21.48.01000. Applicants are requesting a variance from Section 704 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance to subdivide a substandard size unimproved non-conforming lot from adjacent non-conforming lots in the same ownership and place in a different ownership. We have a request by the Sprys to table this item. They filed the necessary paperwork until September. So that item is tabled, and we'll move on to the next item. Next, we have variance application 18-V-22 by Byron David, part of the Northeast Quarter, Section 11, Township 139, Range 35, Straight River Township on Straight River, a forested river. Parcel 25.11.00500. Applicant is requesting a variance from section 702 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance for a proposed addition to a non-conforming residence located in a bluff impact zone. Please state your names and addresses for the record and then explain to the board what you're asking.
My name is Eric Munson. I live at 18475 Elmwood Road, Nevis. I'm the contractor representing Byron and Judy David in their addition. What we're looking for is their
Matt Henry, 17120 169th Avenue, Park Rapids, Minnesota.
Thank you. Go ahead and explain what we're asking here.
So what we're looking for is we're seeking approval for an addition for Byron and Judy to make this into a retirement home. They want us do a single level living. Right now their bedrooms are in the upstairs above the existing, so I hope you guys have the plans now. Okay. So you can see we want to get the laundry room, the primary bedroom, primary bathroom all onto the main floor so they can have main level, one level living.
Thank you. My observations when I'm out there, I think this is reasonable when we look at that bluff line and the distance then, once that goes down into the flats from the river, we're talking a considerable distance. It's well vegetated and any impacts, I don't believe there would be any impacts on the river itself based on the total distance and that floodplain in between and the well vegetated hillside there, that the bluff line that we're dealing with. So that was my observations when I viewed the property.
Yeah, I think any encroachment in the bluff is already done. The new addition is not that close. Well, it's in the bluff zone, but it's not as close as the current house.
And this is Veronica speaking. I'd also like to add that the structure was constructed by permit in 1973, but the bluff regulations weren't added until 1991. So the property owner is proposing reasonable use of the property. The addition, again, will not do any threat or harm to the river, so I'm supportive as well.
This time I'll open for public comment. Hearing none, I'll close public comment.
This is Veronica, then I'll make a motion to approve the application as presented and adopt the staff's findings of facts.
This is Timothy, I'll second that.
Hey, we have a motion by Veronica, a second by Timothy to approve the request and adopt the staff's findings of fact. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye, and motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Next, we have variance application 19-V-22 by James and John Seifert and Marty and Charlotte Peterson, lots 4 through 9, Block 2 subdivision of Outlot 2, Long Lake Park, Section 20, Township 140, Range 34, Henrietta Township, near Long Lake, a recreational development lake. Parcels 13.42.40600 and 13.42.40700. Applicants are requesting a variance from sections 501.2 and 704 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance to subdivide 6 existing contiguous substandard platted lots in the same ownership and into 2 lots that do not comply with the 80,000 square foot minimum non-riparian lot requirement. Please state your names and addresses for the record and then explain to the board what you're asking.
Marty Peterson, 17749 Enchanted Drive, Park Rapids.
James Seifert, 17723 Enchanted Drive, Park Rapids. Our request is basically we're allowed to administratively subdivide the parcels via the shoreline ordinance. If we did it administratively, we would end up with 1 small lot and 1 large lot. We're two couples that bought the land together, and we would like to divide the land evenly. By dividing the land evenly, we actually end up with two lots that are 91.5% of the size of a conforming lot. They meet the 150-foot width. They're just a little bit shy of the 80,000 square foot requirement. We feel that this is actually probably meets the objectives of the ordinance better than administratively subdividing it, and it works out better for our families.
There would be an easement between the two properties as well, which was stated in that, so we'd only have one access off of 107. We currently both have properties on the lake, and this is kind of a buffer property that we decided to purchase together, and then we're going to split it, so we don't have to fight later on.
Thank you. My observations when we were there, and then we did take a drive down towards the lake and around there, that it's a reasonable request, and it meets the intent and pretty much cleans it up, and actually you're taking an extra step to make each lot as close to that 80,000 as possible and not have one considerably smaller. So I think from my standpoint, it meets intent, and I'm in favor.
This is Timothy. I agree, there's far more positives than negatives for the county, so I'm in favor of it too.
This time I'll open for public comment. Hearing none, close public comment. I'll make the motion that we approve the request and adopt the staff findings of fact.
This is Ken, I'll second it.
I have a motion by Mike, a second by Ken to approve and accept the staff findings of fact. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy. I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
This is Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have variance application 20-V-22 by Crooked Pines LLC, part of Government Lot 9, Section 17, Township 141, Range 33, Man-Trap Township on West Crooked Lake, a natural environmental lake. Parcels 20.17.00110. Applicant is requesting an after-the-fact variance from sections 502.1 and 701 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance for various structures, decks, and platforms added to a non-conforming use, some of which do not comply with the 150-foot ordinary high water mark structure setback. Applicant is also requesting variance from sections 502.1 and 701 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance for a proposed accessory structures to be placed at all 20 campground sites and proposed platforms to be placed at some of the campsites, with some of the platforms not complying with the 150-foot ordinary high water structure setback. Please state your name and address for the record, and then explain to the board what you're asking.
Tom Zywick, 2810 Grand Street Northeast, Minneapolis. And we're here today for my variance to complete the action of a violation notice that was received last year and was asked by staff to separate these issues between my cabin side to the campground side to simplify everything. So we did that, and this is the second portion of that discussion from last year. And we're asking for, the decks, which are now called decks and platforms, and the storage sheds on the campground side.
And accessory structures were,
Yes, there is a small accessory structure for the well and the water softener. And the playground is at it, and playground. That's also the playground.
and small accessory structures at each campsite?
Oh, I'm sorry, the sheds.
Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to, this is part of the record. It's a timeline developed by the Environmental Services Office, going through, starting on June 15th, 2018, through August 18th of this year, 2022, when we did our site visit. And just to recognize this document and the number of things on what we've been dealing with on this particular property and how it relates to the request, I think of major importance in my mind is the site visit and the discovery that we have 2 additional violations dealing with the shower house and the garage accessory structure there, and just noting those so that when we are dealing with this request, both the after the fact and the new request, that everyone is aware that we have 2 new violations here on this property. And the Environmental Services has not yet been able to write that up and issue a letter to the individual property owner there. So I just mentioned that. It is part of the record, and so everyone is aware of it.
I did get a chance to review it. I appreciate it.
Questions or comments from the board?
We're, even knowing those violations exist, we're still free to move forward with the current after-the-fact variance request?
We are able to move forward with the current after-the-fact and the new request here, but being aware of what the violations are and a remedy before any actual permits can be issued will need to be part of the discussion. It does not preclude us from acting on those, and I would propose that we first act on the after-the-fact variances request. And if I have it correct, we're dealing with the well house, RV site 10, the deck, RV site 16, the deck, and the playground are all the 4 after-the-fact requests that I would suggest we deal with those first and then move on to the new ones. Unless anyone has a suggestion on how to proceed.
Can I address the letter, the timeline? I do have a comment about that. That might be very fruitful.
Go ahead.
I noticed in there, upon the inspection of the shower house, the 2nd floor, it was noted that I had plumbing in the 2nd floor, which is against the violation of the variance, but that in reality is not true. The pipe that's coming through the floor, going through up into the 2nd floor, is only the vent stack for the 1st floor. It is waiting for the roof guy to cut the hole in the roof because he didn't get it done last winter. And so, and he still hasn't been there, so he's just gonna put that through the roof and attach it. If we're violating or intending to put water upstairs, that's virtually impossible at this time. Not that I ever wanted to, because we made an agreement. I covered the entire ceiling downstairs. You guys didn't look inside the bathrooms, I don't think. Did anybody look in the bathrooms? Okay. You see that I completely finished the ceilings. Well, with plumbing that's going in the walls that are there now, the supply and the drains, the only way to get supply and drains upstairs in the future is if I would have pre-drilled and pre-made all the holes to get it up there in through the walls. And I did not do that. So I think that makes that fairly clear, unless, I don't know if Eric has a comment about the structure. Or you guys know about that? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
The condition for that particular building, that there be no plumbing on the 2nd floor.
Correct.
And a PVC pipe is plumbing.
Well, I have to-
That a T can be put in for a sink. And you can put a pipe up the outside of the building. The condition said no plumbing.
Well, I would think it would be a reasonable request to the board to say that one vent pipe going through the 2nd floor is absolutely reasonable.
So you amend the request to include plumbing in the 2nd floor?
Well, that would be.
Well, I don't want that.
That would be the issue, is we have a variance, that was approved with specific conditions, and it stated no plumbing. It's always up to the individual if he wants to ask for another variance, but it would take an amended request and filing. Is I correct, Eric?
Eric speaking, I guess I would need to wait and see for if what Tom is saying. I'd need to see that stack carried through the roof prior to the wall being finished before I'd say that that was acceptable as just a vent stack and nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
That said, it was the board's condition, so it's for the board to discuss this evening as to how you interpret that condition.
I'm very willing to put the stack out the wall at the first floor and then up outside, but it doesn't seem very practical to me. And nor did I ever believe that that would be some sort of a violation of the vent stack.
What is what is it a vent for?
The plumbing downstairs, there's already the shower houses and everything, and you gotta have air vent going out the roof to allow airflow to make it out drain.
Those are maybe like 2-inch pipes.
It would be based on the size of the plumbing, so, because all my vents go through one stack, I've got 2 toilets and 2 showers downstairs, and there's a,
Makes sense.
you know,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, duly noted, and we'll have to make that
Consider that, yeah. I mean,
consideration.
You wanna just ignore it, or whatever that means. I'm okay with whatever that is.
Okay, let's first go after the fact request for the well house. Any questions or comments from the board on that?
No, makes sense as long as, if that well was ever shut down, that the building would be shut down
That the building be removed.
or be removed.
This is Veronica, I agree with that. Do you understand if we approve this, the condition would be if your well is ever discontinued or the well is abandoned, the structure would be removed because your well would be in a different
Absolutely.
location?
Yep, no question. I wouldn't want it there.
Okay, at this time, I will open for public comment. Hearing none, I'll close public comment. Do we want to make motions on each one and move through systematically rather than, or do we want to lump the 4?
I think just go through them,
The 4 after the facts together?
yeah.
Just go through.
Well, no, just individually, let's talk about them and.
Right.
Individually, okay?
Yeah.
Anything else on that well house? Seems reasonable as
Yeah.
long as we have that condition to me.
I think there's consensus on it, unless somebody
Okay.
says no, then we can say there's consensus on that one.
The other condition that I would put on this and every motion we make, if it is to approve, that the condition before any permits are permitted, that any violations, including the new ones, are cleared by the Environmental Services Office before the permit is issued. And I also believe we need to set a time frame deadline of 6 or 8 months from the meeting date for all corrections to be made, or all approvals are then null and void.
Okay, so that's our thinking when we go through this, okay.
That's my thoughts. Others?
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
This is Veronica, I agree.
That alludes to some of the discussion in the letter that says that I didn't take care of the violations in a timely manner or something.
Correct. And
Right.
yeah, and you also had the same timeline violations in both violation letters. They give you a deadline, and typically when you get to a variance, you're extended the deadline anyway, and it should have been as soon as possible that you got those permits.
But I was asked to separate them and have them in 2 separate variances by the staff. I mean, I had that happening, and I did correct all the violations from the variance when it was approved, within the time.
Well, we're here
You know.
to address what's in front of us here,
Sure.
not what's going on in the past.
It was just in the report.
So, we have the first item on the well house there is anyone prepared to make a motion on this?
You want to make a motion on each one of these?
I think, no?
I thought Ken wanted to group them together.
Group them
The
together?
four.
Okay, so we end the discussion on this first one, and then we'll move to number 2.
Is that okay with everyone?
I'm all right with that.
We're okay with
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then next is the second after-the-fact request is for RV Site 10, a deck to be allowed on that RV site. I think that's reasonable in my mind, as long as the deck is 10 foot by 10 foot and like the other decks and not larger.
Mike, how big is it now?
It's 8 by 20, if I may. It's 8 by 20. It's the same size as all the concrete pads that were installed whenever, long time ago. And that man was there at the time, and like we presented at the visit, he wanted wood instead of concrete, and that's when he put his 8 by 20 in. You know, he'd like to keep it.
Other questions, comments from the
You know,
board?
I know we're gonna talk a lot about 10 by 10 size things. I translate that as 100 square feet. If they wanna prefer to do 8 by 12 or 8 by 12 and a half, I'm okay. Because in some cases the size, and in fact, that deck on 10 is only about 8 feet now, right?
It's 8 by 16, so that would be
8 by 16, so
128.
8 by 12 and a half would give you the 100 square feet. You'd
Sure,
have
correct.
to take off 4.5 or 3.5 feet. Just a thought for the group.
And I
know
do
it's-
support that 100 square feet rule for all the decks. I think that's
Well,
great.
I'm just saying, when we talk about
Yeah.
10 by 10.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 100 square feet, so we can come back to.
I'm with you.
One thought, and I realize that this is well within the 150-foot setback. The deck that's there, that lot 10, or site 10, is very much on a hill. A lot of the other ones, you got a 10 by 10 or whatever platform, but you can walk around. Site 10, you're either on the deck, or if you're old like me, you're hanging on the side hill. And and I know it was built in conflict, it should have had a permit, it was done wrong, lots of reasons. I just want to open thoughts. Would we be more fair just leaving the size that's there because of the terrain? It'd be safer, easier, just a thought. I know we'd like to make this all in conformance, but when you look at it and think about a 80-year-old man like me, I don't know what the rest of you think.
How does the size change the ability to access up or down from that deck or from that deck, I guess would be my question.
It doesn't, it just gives you a little more room, which you don't have because you're on the hillside. That's all I was thinking about. It's, gonna take off 3.5 feet or something. It's not a lot. I just make sure we air it properly.
I think you said within the 150, but we mean it's well over 150, right?
That deck, that whole trailer, or that whole building is 40 feet encroached into the 150-foot setback.
It is? Pardon?
90 feet from it's 90 feet from the lake.
Site 16?
You got a natural environment lake, 150 is a setback.
Site
Maybe I
10.
misunderstand.
Site 10.
We're on site 10.
Oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was on 16 in my head. I totally
I'm on 10.
apologize. Sorry,
Okay.
sorry.
Well, so, okay, you can, I just brought that up. It seems like consensus is to stick with the 10 by 10 uniformity.
I agree with keeping it as it is. You can put a condition on it that if it's destroyed, needs to be replaced or whatever, then we can go down to the 100 square foot mark.
Number.
I kind of feel the same for both. The one that's already existing, it is wood. It's not gonna last much longer anyhow.
Yeah.
I'm open to retaining that same size with the condition that when it's replaced or a new owner comes in, new resident comes in, then it would have to be the same as everything else
I was thinking the
in
same way
time.
for 10.
it's
For
gonna
10 and
be
6, I'm sorry.
the 100 foot. But again,
This is
Thinking
my,
the same for 10 and 16. that
10 and
they're-
16
They're
are-
there, they're not hurting anything right now.
correct.
But if they're ever replaced, they need to go, be
To the
reduced to the
100 square
feet.
foot.
this is Mike, I guess I would be opposed to that. I believe based on the history and the need for compliance, I would like to see this come into compliance with whatever conditions we put prior to anything being approved. And this is, I'm just a little reluctant, since this is going back quite a ways, and making this just hard and fast is what my preference would be on this deck, is that it's not long-lived, so let's do it now and be it done. That way it can all be cleaned up at the same time, rather than going out and then when do we check and when does it change ownership? When does the boards break? Will they come and ask for do the right thing at that point? That's my opinion.
This is Timothy. I'm gonna lean towards you, Mike, because of, just because of it, keeping it very simple and not complicated with sites and somebody saying 16 or 10, just so it's real clear, it's 100 everywhere, then there's no confusion. And
Okay.
So, Mike, the condition is 100,
That's my recommendation.
and Tim, you feel that way? Okay. Yeah, I guess I go along with that in my mind.
Okay, so the consensus is to,
100 square feet.
okay,
Next, the third item is RV site number 16, and it's the same there, a 10 by 10. And again, I would defer that 10 by 10 to 100 square feet is what I would be willing to approve after the fact.
the only difference with that one, it is older, it is more likely to be replaced pretty soon, and I think it's outside the 150 setback.
That's when I
So it
was.
doesn't,
Correct.
it doesn't have that bad attribute to it, so.
Other comments on site 16? The fourth, after the fact, is the playground. Questions or comments about the playground?
As Timothy, I think there's room to move it to a place that meets setback.
Yeah, there's no reason or
There's
practical
a
difficulty.
lot of flat spots.
Okay.
Ken, did you have something?
No, I just gonna say that there's no practical difficulty that's forcing it to have to be where it is. It should meet the setbacks.
I guess I'd be in agreement with that.
Me too. Go
This is
with that,
Veronica.
Mike.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is Veronica, I agree. And playground equipment can be moved anyway, just because of the safety aspect and the ground covering.
Do we want to make a motion on the first four, the after the fact, prior to going to the new requests?
Let's do the new ones. I think they fit well enough together.
Fit well in the same request? Okay, the first new one is a 10-foot by 10-foot, or again, 100 square foot platforms for RV sites 5, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, and 20. And again, to me, that seems reasonable at a 10 by 10 or 100 square feet restriction.
Not a problem.
This is Veronica, I don't have any, I'm supportive of that. It's reasonable to have platforms for the tenants to be on. And I just want to make it clear for the record that the reason the applicant needs the variance for these platforms is due to it's a non-conforming use. If it was a conditional use permit, then it would be a different route. But because it's a non-conforming use, any expansions, whether it's a deck or any expansion enlargement, you have to have a variance every single time, so.
Understood. We've had many discussion. We're learning. That's a complicated issue.
Burn it into you.
Yeah,
Put it in there.
we'll talk some more.
Other questions or comments on The next new request is for storage sheds on all 20 RV sites. If I understand correctly, you're asking for 12 square feet.
I'd like to put some
And
maximum.
no higher, and they must be less than 6 feet or less in height.
We did talk at our visit that 8 would be, and I think that 6 might be just a smidgen too short for your standard kind of shed, because when you stand up to a shed, you tend to have it just a smidgen over your head. So if I'd like 8, but I think 7 could do it, but I didn't really measure the standard kind of plastic shed, you know?
Fishing rod in a 6-foot shed.
Some you can.
Yeah, you and I ain't
Yeah,
that much
some
of an
you
issue, but Keith and Scott got a
Break
big
it in
issue.
half.
Questions or comments from the board?
If we're gonna put a height, I'd say 8 feet, or just nothing at all.
Yeah,
You get too much higher than a 4x3 shed, get too much higher, it becomes unstable.
Yeah, this is Veronica. I don't know that a height restriction is necessary on a shed. If we have 12 square feet, you're not gonna get too tall in that anyhow, but.
This is Tim. I definitely think we should have a height restriction.
And I do too. I'd like one,
I'm okay with 8 feet.
Then 8 it is.
yeah. I don't want it to be higher, you know, I don't want somebody to say, oh, you know.
This is Veronica. I have a question for Eric then, and I just need to backtrack here. So the variance application that we approved before this for some of the after-the-fact storage sheds that he did not get an after-the-fact permit on, will that be null and void then, since we're doing this now for everything? So do we need to address that too? Otherwise, then we've got 2 variances for 2 different storage units.
Yep.
Okay,
Well, they'll be different because that one's already of record.
okay, so that was something that we need to address. We had already approved after-the-fact storage sheds that he had removed from the previous after-the-fact variance when he had some small little containers there.
Yeah.
And that is still approved and going. So if you're gonna go forward and approve this, are you going to want to make that null and void then? Because then now we're giving him approval for 2. We're giving a square foot one, plus he already had approval for the other ones after the fact. We can go back and look at them if we need to.
Excuse me, Mike, are you familiar with the language? What did we approve there?
We can look back and see.
Yeah, I have it.
As far as size or?
There wasn't none.
They were the small 2 foot by 2 foot, those little sun casts. It's on, the variance, or I'm sorry, the violation letter from July 8th of 2021. We had approved all of these little sun cast storage sheds, 2 by 2.5. 1, 2, 3, they were all,
Could we, this is Tim, could we make a condition that it's just 1 storage per site? So they can choose a little one or a big one?
Well,
what's gonna be best for your records?
Eric speaking, I'd leave the one for the cabins alone, that's straightforward, and keep this one separate. This one's also straightforward.
Okay,
So this is just for the RV sites.
okay.
Cabins have storage space inside.
Other questions or comments?
on my side,
If you have anything else to add, yes.
I do have a question about when, we're talking about this after the facts, if they're both 8 by 20 now, and you're approving the variance, but restricting them to 100 square feet, is that what we're moving forward with? I still have to get an after-the-fact variance, correct? I just, once again, ask that those 2 sites being as they are, it be appropriate that 8 by 20 would be allowed. It's not unreasonable to keep them the same size they are.
I think at least what I'm saying is if you're referring to RV site 10 and 16,
Yes.
100 square feet, and that's what the permit will be issued for, so that means it's an after-the-fact approval, which means before it's permitted and finished, it has to be brought to within that 100 square feet. That's my understanding of what, at least that's what I'm saying.
I agree. This is Tim. I agree with that.
Yeah, I do too.
And there is no restriction on the size of a deck. I'm self-imposing that size, correct?
No, we're telling you that the deck on RV site 10 and
No,
16.
no, I understand.
Can be 100 square feet.
I understand. I just have the question that there isn't really a restriction in the code what size the deck can be, correct? That 100 square feet was discussed between you and I and come up with the size. I just want to know that question.
That's up to the board due to it being a non-conforming use.
Gotcha. Okay. That's all. I just was wondering how that worked. Thank you. No other comments from me.
Anything else? So we've covered all 6 items, and I would reiterate that if there is a motion to approve, that the first condition is that on all items, all existing violations on the property must be corrected by, and this is the question to the board, 6 months, 8 months, what do you feel is reasonable? Otherwise, if it's not corrected by that point, my preference would be that nothing is approved, they're all null and void, and it would have to be readdressed with this board.
I think locking it into the opening of camping season next year is a reasonable time frame.
May 1st, are you thinking, May 15th?
Probably makes sense.
Others' thoughts?
That's about 8 months.
No, I think that gives them prior to, no.
You understand what condition we're putting on you?
I understand. I do have a question about it. So the violations that we have, I believe all of them are being addressed on this variance, so that's kind of part and parcel, except the 2 questions about the second floor of the shower house, which we talked about a little bit, and the second floor, the use of the garage area. Is there any others? I think that's the only 2 that will be outstanding. Is that correct?
The 2 new violations are
Yeah.
potentially that shower house, that,
And the garage.
and the other is the garage, whatever you want to call that
Yeah.
entire structure.
I just want to clarify, that's what we're dealing with.
With living
'Cause
quarters
this
in
takes
both
care of
parts
everything
of
else.
that, which are not allowed. So that's in clear violation
Okay.
of the ordinance and what we need to do. So those will need to
Understood.
be corrected, we're saying by May 1st, and if they're not corrected by then, every one of these variances, both after the fact and the 2 new ones, will not be approved and will have to be resubmitted to this board or to the office to act on.
And a permit won't be issued to do so. That's together, right? Or is that right?
Once you correct the violations, the permits could be issued.
Correct. Understand.
The permits will be issued once the violations, but that's all the violations.
Well, it's, yes,
And correct, and that doesn't mean, those are just violations that we noticed
course.
as members. You might have more that, we're unaware of. I don't know where your septic's going, that sort of thing, so.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, there's potentially more that the Environmental Service Office is going to have to investigate. There could be further violations included in this.
Oh, additional to this.
Yeah.
Is there a timeline for that, or?
Yeah, and the violations would include, if we approve the 2 for deck, or the deck for 10 and the platform for 16, they'll have to be reduced to size
Within that time?
within,
Good call.
because they will then
Understood.
be
Understood.
Yeah, the other unknown is where the septic waste in that garage that we now know is a house is going. We don't have that information at this time.
Wasn't that submitted by Beckle Pete?
I didn't understand.
There's no
Must not
record
have been.
There's,
Okay,
there's no record to
Yeah.
our knowledge, to the
Okay.
Environmental Services Office, that
Okay.
that was ever requested or permitted. And so whatever that connection is has to be investigated, because that could put
Sure.
further violations
Understand.
on other things that have been done.
is there be a deadline for those violations? Because otherwise I don't want, get a violation in 6 months and I have 2 months to fix it, kind of a thing. Would that be reasonable? In a month or something, or in 2 months, or? I don't know how much time you need to look or to make a decision.
Understand.
He's asking how long it'll take Environmental Services to investigate and write a letter. That's an unknown. Usually that's fairly timely, but I think if we're stating a deadline of May 1st, that should be ample time for all of these things to take place. Is that a safe assumption, Eric?
Maybe the owner has records of where the SIP system is from that garage right now.
I'd have to ask Becco Pete. I know where it goes. I know where he installed it, you know, to the septic behind cabin 1, 2, and 3, which he said were within compatibility of the amount of flowage, and I thought he got a permit for it. I don't know why he wouldn't have.
There's been
That's
no.
normal for a septic.
There's no permit been issued,
I understand that now.
so clearly we have another violation. What the remedy is for that is
Yeah, that's fair.
unknown.
I'm just saying if I don't get the notice until November or something, and I don't really have much time to work on anything in the winter, that it would be a very short time to fix things in the spring is all think is reasonable. That it would just have some kind of idea, or we could set it X amount of months past the notification. I'm okay with that. I just don't want to come in, November, December, January.
I'm comfortable with May 1st and just leaving it at that. Eric, does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I would say so.
This is Timothy, I agree with May 1st.
Okay, are you looking for a motion or a public comment or?
We did open it for public comment. I will open it one more time. We've discussed a lot of things, so we're open for public comment. Hearing none, we close public comment.
I just have a question on, this is Veronica speaking, for your storage units. Again, reviewing.
On the cabin side?
On the RV side.
Oh, sorry.
So going back to your July 8th violation letter, it stated.
2021, yeah.
It stated that you had plastic storage sheds on 2, 4, 8, 15, and 18.
Yep.
You removed them, correct? Or are they still there?
No, we removed them.
Okay, so back to Eric then. Since he's removed them and they're no longer in violation, but we approved the after the fact for them, do we need to bring up our after the fact approval from what we did in May? Was it May? Just so that we can know what we had back then. Just otherwise, we're gonna be doing 2 storage units. In my opinion, it's from what I can see, unless I'm,
Are the storage units considered after the fact?
well,
In
you
this
had-
case?
No, but you had some that were approved. So
No, we're talking about the campground side, you said.
No, that says RV sites.
RV and campground, same thing.
Yes, yep. So the campground ones that you had, and they were approved, correct?
No, we only did the cabins.
So you only,
We only
We
approved the
only did the
cabins.
cabins,
We
okay.
separated everything.
okay.
To make it
sorry
for
about
simple,
that.
I know.
Thank
See
you
how
for the
confusing it is?
clarification. Yep. Just making
Understood.
sure we're getting one set,
Yep.
not 2, and,
Are you gonna make a motion, Mike, or?
I can. I think that's best.
If you help with the findings of fact, I'll make the motion.
Okay, let's go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve the variance request with the following conditions. The ATF well house is okay. I recommend approval of it, and that if and when the well use is discontinued or the well is abandoned, the structure must be removed,
Understood.
okay? After the fact, RV site 10 deck is okay, but it must be reduced in size to 100 square feet. After the fact, RV site 16 platform has to be reduced, is approved, but has to be reduced to 100 square feet, just so that it matches all the other requests. New 10 by 10, quote, 100 square feet platforms on RV sites 5, 11 through 15, and 18 through 20 are approved. New storage sheds on all 20 RV sites are allowed, 12 square feet with a maximum height of 8 feet.
How many square feet?
What?
I need to catch up. 12 square feet is?
12 square feet with a maximum height of 8 feet. And that the after the fact for the playground request is denied, and that the playground must be removed back and meet the 150 foot conforming setback for a natural environment lake. And then you can add to the.
And then the other conditions that before any of these items are permitted, all existing violations that are currently known and any that are discovered during the department's site visit on the property must be corrected by May 1st. And if not corrected by May 1st, every item, then all of these items are null and void and nothing is approved. And it would require refiling for approval for both the after the fact and the new.
May 1st, 2023.
May 1st, 2023, thank you.
Nice call.
Okay, Ken, do we have findings of fact?
I was gonna ask somebody else to provide them.
Now let's work through them as a group.
Okay. Is it a variance in harmony?
We'll have to do separate findings for the
Ground.
playground since that was a denial.
Well, we're gonna do playground separately, so first we'll do the first 5 items,
Okay,
and the 6th item is the playground.
okay, so that would be a different set of findings of
Yeah,
fact.
we'll do 2. So this is for items 1 through 5.
Okay, I think that a well house, decks of 100 square feet or less, and or decks or platforms, and small storage sheds are all reasonable requests to be included in a campsite. Is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner, not permitted by official control? Yes. Just refer back to the comments for item number 1. All the things that are being requested are reasonable for a campsite. Is the need for a variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or property owner? Most of the campsites, camping site locations were in existence when the property was purchased, therefore not created by the owner. Will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Yes. What else to say about that other than it's a remote area on the lake.
Commercial use.
And commercial use. And does the practical difficulty involve more than economic considerations? Economic considerations were not brought up as a factor, so yes. Okay,
Okay, do you want to do the findings of fact then for the playground?
let someone else can have a chance.
Gotta share.
I'll try that, do that. Is the variance in harmony with the general purposes or intent of the official controls? No, there's ample room to place the playground to meet the setbacks. Is the property owner proposing the use of a property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? No, and again, the same, there is areas that it can be moved back and meet requirements, the setback requirements. Is the need for the variance due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the current or prior orders? No, I believe the current owner placed the playground there, or the prior owner placed that
I did.
in that location. Will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? No, because it's right up next to the lake, and as economic considerations weren't mentioned, so that one is yes. So we have a motion in the findings of fact. Do I have a second?
This is Mark, I'll second it.
We have a motion by Ken, a second by Mark, to approve items, the well house, with the condition that if it's ever discontinued or abandoned, that the well house must be removed. The deck, in both 16 and number 10 and number 16 RV sites, the decks or platforms are approved at 100 square feet. The RV platforms for sites 5, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, and 20 are approved at the condition is 100 square feet. The storage sheds for our 20 RV sites are at 12 square feet with a height of 8 feet or less. And then a denial of the playground location, it must be removed or moved to meet the ordinance. And again, the other condition is that all items and all existing items, on all items that we're approving here, all existing violations on the property must be corrected by May 1st, 2023, or none of the approvals go into effect, and at which time on May 1st or May 2nd, 2023, if they're not corrected, all violations, they become null and void, and it would have to be resubmitted for approval because it would still have potential violations. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
This is Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye. Motion carries. The Environmental Service Office will be out at some point to do some
They haven't been out yet,
inspections.
right? You haven't been there, you're going to be. Okay.
And at that point, you'll know what other violations also will need to be corrected. Thank you.
And a decision letter will be mailed to you from today's decision too, so you'll
Yeah,
get notification.
With everything. I do have one question for my one site, if that's appropriate.
You can ask the question.
Yeah.
and tell
On
you.
my guy at site 16, who really wanted to keep his deck because they didn't want to change it and whatever, and, you know, each person's willing to pay the after-the-fact price. He was willing to pay the after-the-fact variation price of $500 for the, you know, and now we're telling him it can only be 10 by 10. It hardly seems fair to him that he's gonna have to pay an after-the-fact fee to reduce it, almost rebuild it basically, to the smaller size that everyone else is required to. Is that
My
reasonable?
response to that is, you are the requesting person for all these variances.
Of course.
So we're dealing with that. How you deal with individual
Understand.
campsites is up to you and not a decision, anything this board will be
I understand
involved
that. It
with.
just was, yeah, I guess it don't matter. You go what I'm getting at. Okay, that's fair. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a good night, the rest of your night.
Next, we have variance application 21-V-22 by Mark and Beth Olson, Lot 3, Block B, first addition to Pine Haven Beach, Section 17, Township 139, Range 34, Hubbard Township on Long Lake, a recreational development lake. Parcel 14.38.40500. Applicants are requesting a variance from Part 1, Section 702 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance for a proposed addition to a non-conforming residence located in a shore impact zone, and Part 2, Section 702 of the Shoreline Management Ordinance for a proposed lakeward addition to a non-conforming accessory structure that would increase its ordinary high water mark setback non-conformity. Please state your names and addresses for the record and then explain what you're asking for.
Beth Olson, 110 Adamy Street, Columbus, Nebraska, not Columbus, Shelby, Nebraska. We just moved. And he has Columbus on there, but it's Shelby, 68662.
And Mark Olson, 110 Adamy Street, Shelby, Nebraska, 68662.
I'm Barry Munson, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm Barry Munson, 20413 Hunter Road, north of town. I'm the builder.
Okay, explain what you're asking.
So we have two parts that we're requesting a variance for. First part's for an addition of a 18 by 24 addition to the back of our existing cabin. We need bedrooms, and that's what the addition would be for. We really do not have bedrooms in that cabin, and the main thing that, why we want to do this really is for our kids and our grandkids. And they've all been up here. We've had the cabin now since fall of 2018. And we made some improvements to the front and the sides and upgraded it. And the back siding is all pretty well rotten and worn out. And so that's the last piece that we're trying to get fixed. And then, so in addition to that, bedrooms. So, and I would like to thank you guys for coming out. And I know you did take a look at it and had some good questions. And also want to thank Eric's team for really being helpful in putting some of this stuff together for us, helping us. The other one is requesting a variance to add an existing storage shed to an existing bathhouse. And that's been there for a long time. And I think when you looked at that, we got some ideas of attaching I think it was, what was it, 20 by 14 onto the existing bathhouse and utilize that space. And then we need lots of storage. In addition to no bedrooms, we have hardly any storage in the cabin. And so that's one of the things that we would really like for that.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Eric, just to confirm that I think from your staff report, if it were not for the small lagoon, which puts constraints on them, they in fact could do both of these by permit.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the practical difficulty that forces us into a variance. Okay.
And if you look at the would be the southwest or south east corner, there is a wall there, and so we're not going closer. I guess as far as we go back, we get farther away from the lagoon. So on that south wall of the addition. So just point that out.
This time I'm going to open for public comment. Hearing none, I close public comment. Other questions, comments from the board?
This is Tim. I have a question. Eric, on that bathhouse, that existing bathhouse, only 8 feet from the property line? Are we making a violation adding something onto something that doesn't meet the ordinance?
Eric speaking. No, say the lagoon is not there and they are just dealing with a lake setback, you can add on to a non-conforming structure that's outside of the shore impact zone. And if the side lot setback is a nonconformity, the addition can be made so long as it maintains that same setback and doesn't go closer to the side lot line than the current structure.
All right, thank you.
This is Veronica. The only thing I would suggest is maybe a possible condition that no living quarters are to be added in the addition to the bathhouse. No bedrooms, no bunk beds.
Let me ask a question. Your current bathhouse has a shower, a stool,
And a sink.
Hot water,
Sink.
hot water heaters in there.
And water.
Hot water And the pressure tanks in the water pump thing. So that, it pumps water up there, cold up there and cold into the cabin, and then hot comes from up above back into the cabin.
I want to pick up on what I think Veronica was bringing up. There's creeping elegance that always comes along.
I'm sorry?
When creeping elegance, oh, it's just a shed, then it becomes a guest house. And my only concern with this is that we clearly state and have a condition that will be storage area. There will be no living facilities in there whatsoever, bedroom. Could easily be a guest house if you put a bedroom there because you have all the other facilities. So, I think the small inlet or lagoon is just a practical difficulty that we'd like to ignore, so to speak. I don't think it's a big impact to the lake or anything, but I clearly am concerned that, and I understand you have no garage or anything, and storage space at a cabin is always at a premium, but absolutely you want to make sure that it does not end up being a guest cabin.
When we talked about it, you could put it somewhere else, but aesthetically, I think it looks better than having a bunch of things all over the lot. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the reason that we wanted that, and
Yeah.
carrying up all that stuff is getting harder.
Yeah.
But I think aesthetically, it would be better to have it together than, something here, something here, something there, that's just my thought.
This is Veronica speaking. I agreed. I looked and during my lot views. I noted that there was a different location that an accessory structure could be built towards the road part of the lot. But I agree, typically because of the location, it could be built by permit, but with that one little lagoon there, that's really our only obstacle for this. So I have changed my views as well, and I agree that adding to that would be a little bit more pleasing than separate buildings
That's what I
strung
thought.
out here as
Would
well.
look better.
This is Mike. I'm also in agreement with that and with a condition being put on that structure.
This is Timothy. I have a question for the builder. Did you do any borings or anything to check to see how close that tank did get to where you'll be excavating? On the
septic tank there?
Yeah.
I didn't. It's good. We talked about it at one point that we have to have a sewer guy come in, and he didn't want to come unless there was gonna be a variance, because everybody's busy.
Yeah.
But the tank may have to be moved, and we'd have to get a permit done if we had to move that tank over.
Yeah, I was just gonna make the comment that I wouldn't see any problem of it being close. I would only if it was half in and half out
Yeah, and it
of
looked
the
like we were gonna
construction.
just get inside of the 10 feet.
Okay.
We were gonna crowd a little closer.
From the 2 foot, but I think the tank probably goes that way, but I don't see a problem with it.
The other discussion that came up, I think, when we were out there is, and maybe it's not ours to worry about too much, but strong concern for your water runoff, both with your new structure by the cabin, and I think as Tim pointed out when we were there, if you build that proposed storage shed where it is, you're basically building a dam for water coming off the hill there. You're, I don't know, what, other guys may have a better view, but you're gonna have to be real careful or you're not gonna be happy.
Yeah, they
So,
raised that up a ton. I mean, it was never that high, but it got raised lots of feet.
This is Tim speaking. Yes, we looked at that and we seen where that water is gonna get trapped when you put that addition on the back side of that.
Well, I didn't know if John Mason had ever resolved, they brought that retaining wall back a little ways, but that wasn't planned out well. From that side, John was doing his work and just let everything, there was no erosion barrier or anything to start with.
But the question Ken was talking about when you add on to this
Yes,
bathhouse, that
if
little
something
corner.
doesn't happen up here to keep all his water in a rain event, we've gotta do something down
downhill, because it's gonna be
You have to
coming.
put a berm in there or somehow.
Yeah, we talked about, I'm
get it
not,
away.
like I say, when they put it in, we were not under any idea that it was gonna be raised.
But it was that way before. The hill always come down that way, even
not where
because
that
I was
shed
there
is.
for their variance when they asked to do it. That hillside always came off to that lot. Your lot is the drainage to the lagoon from that lot. It's
But
always,
it did get
always
raised.
went across there. You're building something that's going to trap it in a corner.
Yeah, it'd have to be burned out.
Yeah.
I think the board is just expressing a concern that make sure that that's addressed, because what will ultimately happen is a failure of your building site, which may or may not involve this board in the future, but it would be, you would certainly have an issue. So I think that's why that was brought up, to make sure.
It's a good point.
It's a good point. And they've talked to us about doing something because it wasn't, we didn't have a problem before, now we do, so they've talked about sharing something, us working on something together with them, so we'll see.
And this is Veronica speaking. I have one other thing just to keep in mind is if these two items get approved, you're going to be very close to the 25% impervious surface. And so that basically means that if you ever had plans for an actual garage in the future, you would have to then go back to the board and request a variance, because you're already at that 25% and the size of your lot being smaller too. So that's gonna put a little damper if that's, possibility.
Other questions or comments? Someone ready to make a motion?
Someone else's turn.
I'll make the motion that we approve the request, both parts. And the condition is that no living quarters, beds, bunks, anything with sleeping or living capabilities be allowed in that storage building that's being built next to the part of the bathhouse. And I would accept the staff findings of fact.
And this is Veronica. I second the motion.
I have a motion by Mike, a second by Veronica, to approve both parts of the request with the condition that no living quarters, beds, or bunks be in part of the storage addition to the bathhouse. And accept the staff findings of fact. Timothy, how do you vote?
This is Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
This is Ken, I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next on the agenda, miscellaneous and/or communications.
Eric speaking, the deadline for applications for next month is next Monday. So right now, we've got 3 or 4 variance applications submitted. Might see 2, 3 more, so,
Plus the one tabled.
right, so 6 to 8, I'm guessing, for variance applications, and there's no anticipated planning commission items, so that's roughly what next month is looking like. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Okay,
I
anything else for
suppose,
the good of the order?
Just the reminder for those that will be attending the MCIT land use training, that will be on Wednesday, September 14th. And, yeah, should be good info.
I look forward to hearing the report.
Is the meeting closed?
We'll need a motion to adjourn.
This is Ken, I make a motion, we adjourn.
This is Mark, I'll second it.
Motion by Ken, second by Mark to adjourn. Timothy, how do you vote?
Timothy, I vote aye.
Ken, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Mark, how do you vote?
It's Mark, I vote aye.
Veronica, how do you vote?
Veronica, I vote aye.
This is Mike, I vote aye. Meeting's adjourned.